There's a hospital full of people bustling about. Some people stand in a line to get checked by a doctor. A pandemic seems to be on the loose. A man stands in a line with a baby in his hand. He looks nervous and he is trying to console the baby who is crying. His wife exits the clinic and he happily gives her the baby, looking relieved that she finally came out. He goes in and the doctor puts a stethoscope to his chest and examines him. After the examination, the doctor puts a large P on the back of the man's coat with chalk. This means the man has pulmonary tuberculosis. Since the man is ill, the officials do not let him or his wife board the train on which they need to be. The wife asks if they can just let the baby on, but the guard denies their request. They board a ship, and the father now sees a light in a room. He walks into the room to find a boat model that is big enough to fit his son. The box has a metal label that says City of Justice. He breaks the glass box the boat is in. The parents make the difficult decision and carve out a hole in the small boat. With tortured and despaired expressions, they put their baby into the small boat and lower the boat into the sea. The boat floats with the baby inside and starts to sail towards the city. In another scene, a bearded man seems to be looking for something. He enters a room in Grand Central Station, where he finds a box which has a blanket and the same label, the City of Justice, inside it. He looks confused and it seems that he is trying very hard to remember something. The movie starts with a man who looks like a thief. He seems to be running from official-looking men dressed in black. The man sees a large black gate. Panicked but determined to escape, he runs through the gate, punching one of the men who had caught up. He locks the gate, but as he runs, he slips on some ice on the road. By the side of the road, he sees a horse. He looks surprised, but as the men behind him climb the gate trying to catch him, he sees the horse as his only escape. Before he climbs the horse, it bows to him and he is confused by this. In a hurry, he climbs the horse. Instead of running away from the well-dressed men, the horse runs towards them, jumps impossibly over the tall gate and gallops away. A man with a dirty scar on his cheek is the leader of the well-dressed men. This man is Pearly. He looks disappointed that he found the horse and escaped him. He stands and watches him leave. In the next scene, a red-haired girl is playing the piano. A cheerful melody seems to be emanating from the entire house. A man knocks on the door and enters the house to meet the father of the girl. The man is here to make glasses for the girl. The father tells the glassmaker that his daughter has the fever and that his wife has passed away. The daughter comes down the stairs with a bright smile on her face and tells the man that it is not contagious. The man checks her eyesight, meanwhile explaining that his own sister had passed away from the fever. The girl offers her condolences. She talks about how the fever makes her see light in such a way that everything around her seems to be connected by light. She jokingly asks the man if he has glasses for that. The thief takes his horse to a stable to his friend. The man thinks the horse is stolen, but the thief explains that the horse got him out of Pearly's hands, so it is his companion now. The thief, Peter, asks his friend to give him a saddle and food for the horse, as he had to leave the city the next day. After Peter leaves, the man pets the horse and tells it that he was wondering when it would arrive. Peter goes to sleep in his secret room, which is above the Grand Central Station. Meanwhile, Pearly talks to his assistant Romeo about catching Peter. He tells Romeo to kill Peter, and Romeo is curious about why Pearly wants to kill him. Instead of answering his question, Pearly shows Romeo his gems. When the moonlight falls on them, the image of Grand Central Station appears on his table. Pearly immediately leaves with Romeo and his team to find and catch Peter. Peter has already left his room with his horse, so when Pearly arrives there, he finds the room empty. At the girl's house, a little girl skips to a trunk in which there are coats and winter hats. She wears a coat and a hat and then ventures to her older sister's tent. This girl is little Willa and her older sister is Beverly. Beverly takes her sister into her arms and snuggles into the bed with her. Willa asks Beverly why she isn't going with the family to the countryside, and she answers that they have to set up her tent outside the house, so she has to wait for that before she can go. Willa starts to cry and asks her sister not to die. Beverly kisses her face and says that it is not up to her. The girls lie on the bed, and Beverly names the stars for her sister to comfort her about her own upcoming demise. As Beverly's family leaves for the country, Peter stands outside their home with the horse. It is just before dawn, and he climbs onto the horse just as Beverly's family leaves. He tries to make the horse go, but it wouldn't budge. Instead, the horse gestures with its head towards the house. Peter thinks the horse is convincing him to steal, and he agrees to do it one last time before he leaves. Just as Peter climbs the terrace, Beverly feels her fever is very high and she wakes up from her sleep. She goes into the house and enters the bathtub, submerging completely into the water in hope to cool down her body temperature. Peter sneaks into the house and finds the locker. As he tries to open it, Beverly starts to play the piano, and he gets scared as he did not realize there was anyone home. He pulls his gun out and slowly walks into the room to see a beautiful redhead playing the piano. The floorboards creak and Beverly turns around to look at him in shock. To his surprise, she is not at all scared. She asks what he is doing there, and he tells her he came to steal. She asks him if he would like some tea, and, though he is confused, he says he would. They sit on a round table and introduce themselves to each other. He tells her he has never seen anyone who is not afraid of the robber. They talk about life as they drink tea and he flirts with her a bit. After tea, she asks him to leave and not to steal anything on his way out. He obliges and leaves. Pearly enters a bustling diner with his men, and everything goes quiet. People seem to be quite intimidating and dangerous to them. They eat a lot of clams and then Pearly asks the waiter for an owl for dinner. When the waiter explains they have no owls on the menu, Pearly's face contorts into the most terrifying demonic shape with sharp teeth, and he cuts the waiter's throat to kill him. He suddenly has a vision where a red-haired girl is standing with her hand on a window, staring at the moon. He uses the waiter's blood to draw it on a napkin and tells Romeo to find the red-haired girl. He knows that Peter will be with the red-haired girl wherever she is. She is his destiny. Instead of leaving the city, Peter goes to an old friend and asks for help. He tells him he loves this girl and it's nothing like he's ever felt before. His friend tells him that sometimes, to fulfill people's destiny, angels come down to help them. He mentions an angel called Athanser, the dog of the East. He tells Peter that sometimes the dog appears in the form of a horse. Peter is skeptical at first, but when he realizes the horse is his guardian angel, he thanks his friend and goes on his way to get the girl he thinks is his destiny. The next day, Beverly is getting ready to leave. She talks to the driver, who is actually Pearly's man. She goes back in the house to get her suitcases, and when she comes out, Pearly stands there with 10 of his men. He walks towards her and Beverly knows something is wrong. He talks as he grabs her arm and walks her down the stairs of her porch to the street, talking about knowing Peter all the way. He takes out a knife and is just about to kill her. She closes her eyes and looks terrified, but it looks like she has accepted her fate. Before Pearly can do anything else, Peter swoops in on his horse and calls Beverly's name. She immediately grabs onto his arm and climbs onto the horse. They escape, but Pearly and his men start to chase them. Beverly tells Peter to go north of the river, but there appears a cliff. Peter tells her to hold on, and Beverly is scared that they will fall off. The horse gently jumps off and lands onto the ice. Pearly can't follow them, as he is forbidden to go north of the river. Now, they have successfully escaped. Beverly is happy and holds on to Peter as she instructs him where to go. Soon, they reach the countryside, where her family is residing, and they climb off the horse. This is where Peter meets Willa, who asks him if he is Beverly's boyfriend. Peter gets shy and does not know what to say. Beverly asks Peter to go in and tells him that her father will have questions about everything. Peter gets nervous, but follows her inside. The next thing he knows, Peter is sitting on a chair in front of Isaac Penn, Beverly's father. He asks Peter who he is, why he's here, and what relationship he has to Beverly. Peter answers honestly and tells him that he is, indeed, a thief as Mr. Penn had judged already, and he loves Beverly. Mr. Penn accepts his honesty and asks if Peter would like some wine, and he says yes. After the terrifying encounter with Beverly's father, Peter and Beverly walk outside. Beverly has a fever and she walks barefoot to cool her temperature down. The snow melts where she stands. Peter shows her a way to calm down her heartbeat, the same way he did when he tried to open the locker in her house. He tells her to inhale and then say meaningless words on the exhale. He gives her examples of the names of saints, countries, or priests. When she starts to speak, she says the names of the stars like she said to her sister. She keeps saying it, and when he puts his hand on her chest, they realize her heartbeat is no longer so fast, and the snow doesn't melt at her feet. After the walk, Peter can't sleep, so he sits at a table and uses Willa's crayons to draw the same red-haired vision that Pearly had. Willa reminds him that those are her crayons. He says that he knows. She takes him to a place that looks like a small greenhouse. There is a bed in the middle of the greenhouse. Willa said she remembers her father told her a story about a princess who died, but was brought to life. She created the princess's bed, so when he kissed Beverly here, she would come back to life, too. He hugs and comforts Willa, with a devastated expression on his face. Pearly goes to a secret lair, where he says his name and the door is opened by an older, worn-out man with his lips sewed shut. Pearly says he has an appointment and the man lets him in. Inside, he hears a deep, intimidating voice which is given a face when Lucifer turns on the lights. He tells Lucifer he is there to request permission to move to the north of the city. The devil asks him why he needs permission. Pearly explains that the human Peter is about to fulfill his destiny with the presence of 2 angels. The horse as well as his friend in the stable are present, so it is evident that there is a miracle about to happen and he wants to prevent it. Lucifer is furious and denies him the permission. Pearly is ordered to leave. Peter and Beverly stand outside her mansion, and there are loud and scary noises heard from within the house. The maid comes out and warns them that the steamer in the basement seems to not be working and that everyone should go next door, just in case it explodes. She looks very worried, and this worries Beverly and Willa, who was brought by the maid. Peter tells them to go next door so he can help her father fix the problem. Beverly resists and asks him to come next door, but he insists, so they leave. Peter goes to where the steamer is and there are loud sounds heard from it, while Mr. Penn and a mechanic are trying to fix it. He asks Mr. Penn if he can help, but he denies. Stubbornly, he starts to help, and when he does, Mr. Penn asks the mechanic to leave as he wasn't doing much good. Mr. Penn tells him that he cannot risk the house being damaged because of this. He tells Peter all of the furniture was chosen by his wife, and he doesn't want anything to happen to it. Peter tries to turn some knobs that makes it even worse, and now, Mr. Penn gets mad. Peter turns one last knob, and there is a release from all of the chimneys of the mansion. The steamer calms down, and Peter and Mr. Penn look at each other gratefully. Mr. Penn hugs Peter, and he accepts the hug, happy to have helped. After the long day, Peter sees Beverly and she tells him that she would like to dance with him at the New Year's party at their house that would be on Thursday. Peter smiles and is happy at her confession. Meanwhile, Pearly walks with an angel in human form. He tells the angel that he owes him a favor, and the angel looks nervous to be there. He tells the angel that he has no choice, because the rules are that all debts have to be paid. He hands the angel a small vial that seems to be poison and lies to him that it just fastens the heartbeat. The angel asks if they will be even after this, and Pearly teases him a little, but says yes. The ball starts and Beverly and Peter go together. The lights are bright and there are so many people there. Beverly compliments Peter on his suit, and he thanks her as he leads her into the party. The waiter pours their champagne, but they don't realize he is the same angel who made the deal with Pearly. As the couple get up to dance, he pours the vial into Beverly's champagne. They dance and have fun, not knowing the danger that awaits them. They come back to their table and Beverly drinks her champagne. They go back to their rooms after the ball, and Peter stands on the ground, from where he can see Beverly's tent, and she calls to him with her shadow. He enters her tent and he asks him to make love to her. They make love, and afterwards, Beverly's eyes remain open but she doesn't breathe. Peter realizes what is happening, and he cries on her body before he carries her in the last hope that maybe the princess bed would bring her back to life. He takes her to the bed Willa had made for her, and he kisses her again and again. Nothing happens, and he closes her eyes as he cries over Beverly's dead body. He attends the funeral of his one true love, and then he climbs onto his horse. He no longer wants to run from his enemies and decides that a fight will do him some good. Before Peter can think of finding Pearly, he appears behind Peter and salts his wounds by talking about the way his one true love died. Pearly ambushes him onto the bridge, and his men surround him on all sides. They throw him off the horse and Pearly wants them to skin the horse alive. The men throw a net onto the horse to capture it. Peter fights them and cuts the net to free his horse. He tells his horse to leave, and the horse flies away. Pearly grabs Peter by the collar and smashes his head into Peter's repeatedly, leaving him disoriented. Then, he throws him into the river, thinking he might be dead. Years later, in the year 2014 in New York, Peter wanders as a homeless madman on the streets. He has grown a beard and long hair, and his clothes are tattered. He draws the vision of the red-haired girl with chalk on the floor again and again, trying to remember who she is. He has forgotten everything about himself and doesn't even remember his name. This is when his guardian angel, his friend from the stable, shows up. He flips a coin and the light from it confuses a little girl who bumps into him and falls down. She seems 9 or 10 and she has a scarf around her head. She looks up at him and extends her arms for him to pick her up just like Willie used to do, and this causes his memory to come back a little, and he smiles. The little girl asks if she is heavy or light, just like Willie used to do, and he says she is light as a feather. She asks Peter his name, but he says he doesn't remember. She says everyone knows their name, and Peter says he forgot his. The mother of the girl watches them curiously, as Peter seems a bit strange to her. The little girl says she knows the names of the stars, but she can never remember them. Suddenly, Peter remembers the names of the stars Beverly told him. He says the name of Castor, like Beverly had said. The mother takes her daughter away just then, and now Peter is really beginning to remember some things. He suddenly remembers his secret room above Grand Central Station, and he goes there to find the little box that has the blanket he was wrapped in as a baby and the label that said City of Justice. He puts the label in his pocket and looks at himself in a dusty mirror. He writes his own name with a question mark in front of it, with his finger through the dust on the mirror. He now remembers who he is, but something is still missing. He finds a small chocolate that he had stolen on the day of the ball, and he sees the name of the Coherries company that Mr. Penn had donated to. With this clue in hand, he sets out to find out who the red-haired girl is. He cleans himself up and goes to a publishing company for newspapers and magazines and asks them if he can meet Isaac Penn. The man behind the counter says he passed away a long time ago. Peter then asks for information on the family. The man asks for ID, to fill the form and then wait for 2 weeks. The woman who was the little girl's mother sees Peter and asks if she knew him. Peter explains that he had lost his memory and recently acquired some of it. He said he needed to find out about Coherries to get his memory back. The woman helps him and uses her liberty as a reporter for the company to get him inside. They open a photo film from 1916 and play it on an old machine that Peter helps the woman fix. There are pictures of Isaac Penn, and as Peter watches, an image of Beverly appears and tears fill his eyes and fall down his cheeks as he stares at the picture of him and Beverly. The woman is surprised that Peter is still alive and wants to take this case to the owner of the company. The old woman appears at the counter just as Peter and the reporter are asking for her, and Peter recognizes her as Willa. Willa drops her files and extends her arms as she used to do all those years ago, and he hugs her. Willa takes the reporter, Virginia, and Peter to her house, which is the same house Beverly used to reside in. Everything has changed, except the table Peter sat at, to drink his first tea with Beverly. Willa is happy to see him, and after catching up, he leaves. Willa knows they will not see each other again, so she hugs him and he kisses her forehead before saying her goodbyes. Virginia invites Peter for dinner and he doesn't accept at first, but then decides to go. He reaches the building and Virginia lets him in. But he doesn't know that Pearly has had another vision and is now following him. Pearly has gone to the devil to ask for permission to fight with Peter, and whoever loses will die the eternal death. Lucifer told him to reconsider, but he was adamant, so Lucifer accepted. Now, Peter is in Virginia's apartment and they are deciding on ice cream flavors when the little girl, Abby, has a seizure and collapses. They lay her down and she puts her hand on the window. Suddenly, Peter's vision has come to life. The little girl has red hair, but also a red scarf around her head, and her hand is on the window. She is not looking at the moon, but a reflection of the bulb in the apartment is what both Peter and Pearly had been seeing. Peter looks down the window and sees Pearly's men. He tells Virginia that this is his purpose, that he can save Abby from her cancer. He says they must run, and the hooves of a horse can be heard from the roof. They run, and to Virginia's surprise, there is a horse on the roof. They climb onto the horse as Pearly's men try to break through the roof door. Pearly shoots at them, but the horse takes them flying over rooftops to the same countryside where Beverly's family had gone. Peter says that Pearly can't come here, but with Lucifer's permission, the rules had changed, and Pearly had come with cars and his men. Peter told the horse to do what it thought was right and the horse flew away. Pearly called it a coward and told Peter to give up, because they outnumbered him 20-1. Before Pearly can do anything else, the horse comes down on the ice and breaks it. The cars and Pearly's men sink and now he is left alone. Now, Pearly and Peter fight one-on-one, while Virginia stands with her unconscious daughter in her arms, worried and frightened. They throw punches and fight until it looks like Peter has lost. Peter uses the City of Justice label, as it was sharp and made of metal, and pushes it into Pearly's throat. He stabs Pearly again and again, until the demon dies and turns to a statue of ice. Peter is relieved, but then Virginia looks at her daughter and cries when she realizes she isn't breathing. Panicked and having one last hope, Peter runs and takes the little girl to the princess bed that Willa had made long ago. He lays her down and kisses her forehead, wishing for her to wake up. When she doesn't, both Virginia and Peter cry, thinking she is dead. Then, miraculously, Abby wakes and talks to her mother, asking why everyone is crying and if she passed out again with one of her fainting spells. Both Peter and Virginia are blissful and tell her there's nothing to worry about. They go back to Virginia's home and Virginia thanks Peter and hugs him before going home. Peter then goes to the graveyard where Beverly is buried, finally feeling he fulfilled his purpose and did some good for the world. He looks at his horse, who bows down to him. He now knows his mission is truly fulfilled. He has achieved his miracle and now it was time for him to go. He straddles his horse, and the horse runs and flies into the night sky, and as Willow watches from the distance happily, Peter and his guardian angel become a star, right next to the star that would have been Beverly, if she ever did become one.